Okay, so we have our entries done. We've created our table. We're going to look at how we can move these entries or these records into our GL, right? So that every time we click and we save, it moves from this section to our GL. So what we're going to do is create some bunch of actions that do that, and then we will also look at other things that have to be done. So let's come to the action section, and then we're going to come to the entry table. The first thing we're going to create is the action that actually creates the entries in the GL. So we're going to click a plus over here, create a new entry. We're going to call this move transactions GL. Okay, I'll close this guy. Good. In the entry sheet, it says we're going to add a new row to another table using values from this row. Good. The GL. Okay. Now the ID is going to be unique. Save. Okay. Now transaction ID is going to come from transaction ID. So that's fine. I'm going to save this. The next one is our entry date. Now, this is what I was talking about. The entry date is just going to be now. Okay, it's going to select now. You can also take it from the entry date button. I'll just take now. That's fine. And then we're going to have our trans date. So this is transaction ID. That's fine. So trans date is going to be the transaction date in the entry table. In the entry table, we have trans date. Okay, that's fine. So this is that. We'll come here. Then we have description. It's going to be description. Okay. Then we have account is going to be account save. So you see in this case, we're not taking the main account. The main account is just a helper field. Then we have debit step is going to be debit. And then we have credits. Credits is going to remain credits. And then we will have net debits. And then we have net credits. Okay, run script is going to remain empty. Let's see. Is there any other field apart from run script? Good. That's it. So now we have the debits and then we have credit, and then we will need to input net debits and net credits. Is that okay? Now we can choose to do this in here, or we can calculate it over there and then move it directly. Okay, I think the easier option is to calculate it and then move it here rather than letting the action do the computation, because if the action does the computation, my guess is it's going to be more calculation as the data is being moved rather than doing it when you are entering. So what I mean is over here, when we are entering, we'll have the net debit and net credit calculated, and then when we are just moving it, when we click save, by then it's already calculated, and then we can move it rather than letting the action recalculate it every time. So we'll come here. Let me leave this as blank for now. I'm just going to make this blank and blank. I'll come back and I'll address this. Okay, so let's come here to entry and let's try and figure out the formula for this. Okay, good. So not valid if auto compute. Good. So the formula for the net debit and net credit is good. If you select an account, that is a debit account. So let me show this. If you select in this case, you see long-term debt, long-term loan is a credit account. Do you get it? But in this case, you are debiting it. You get it? So in the debit section of the net debit account, it's going to be zero because that particular account is always credited. So net debit is going to be zero and net credit is going to be negative. Negative this amount. So you are reducing the account balance by 30,000. Same for furniture. Furniture is a debit account. Do you get it? So its values will always be in the net debit section. But because you put it or you've credited it, we are reducing it by 30,000. So it's going to be negative 30,000 in the debit section. Okay, so now let's see how we'll write this formula. It's going to be simple. We're going to say equal to if the type equals to credits. If the account that has been selected on this line is equal to credit, automatically we know that the debit is going to be 0. Or better still, let's just leave it at blank. If the type of the account has been selected is originally a credit account, so in this case, the long-term loan is a credit account, right? If the type is credit, then net debit should be 0 because this account is originally credit. So every net should be in the credit side. Good. Now we're going to write a formula there. However, if it happens to be a debit account, so it's not credit, we're going to say it's debits multiplied by 1, like this. So give us a debit value plus the credit value multiplied by minus 1. So basically what we are saying is, okay, if the type is credit, give us nothing because in this case, it has nothing to do with the net debit. A credit account has nothing in the net debit section. But if it's debits, good. Then what we want you to do is take the debit value and multiply by 1. So if it's being debited, then give us a positive debit value. But if the account, being a debit account, is being credited, then give us the negative of that credit value. That's this over here. Good. So in this case, a perfect example is the furniture. The furniture was being credited. Do you get it? But because the furniture is a debit account, do you get it? And type is equal to debit. It will take the debit value, in this case, which is blank. So 0 times 1 is 0. Plus the credit value, which was 30,000. So 30,000 minus 1. So in this case, the net debit will be a negative amount. Okay, just for context, this is what I'm talking about. So the share sense 2, this 30,000 will become negative 30,000 in the debit section. Good. So I'm going to copy this formula. I'm going to save this here. Click done. Come to net credit, put the exact same thing here, and flip it. It is debit. I have no business with it. Other than that, debit should be negative and credit should be positive. Simple. Save. I'm going to save. So this net debit and credit is going to be very useful in creating our income statement and balance sheet because it will help us create the totals. Do you get it? Good. Because there's debit and credit, we need to align them and create the totals. All right, so I'll come here and then move to GL. Because we are calculating this directly in the entry table, we can just pull these values in. So this will be net debit and net credit. Other than that, we could have placed those formulas here, right? And I feel like if we place the formulas over here, the action is not only just moving the transaction, but it's also doing the calculation, which might delay it. So just to save ourselves that extra step. Okay, so we have the action that is moving the transaction. The next action we need to do is the action that will clear. So after we are done moving, so you see, after we've saved and moved, this table has to be cleared. So it has to be fresh and then we can restart. Do you get it? Good. So we'll come here and then we'll basically just duplicate this. And this time we're going to say clear entry table. Good. So we're going to set some values of the columns in this table. Good. Right. The ID is going to remain unique ID. So that we're not going to touch it. Transaction ID, we're going to save it as this. No, but then, transaction ID, right, is a calculation. We can't set the value. We have to leave it as it is. Entry date is a calculation. We leave it. Transaction date, we'll leave it. Description date, we'll leave it. Account, good. That one we need to clear. We also need to clear the main account. So main account, we need to clear them. Debit has to be cleared. Credit has to be cleared. And then net debit, net credit, their calculation. So we'll leave them as is. So the ones that we are going to be editing over here, where are they? That's main account, debit and credit. We need to clear them and reset them. The other ones are calculations. So whenever we click, it will re-update. So we leave it as is. I'm going to hide these guys as well. This guy too, I need to hide him. And then we also need to clear the control. We need to clear the control table. So we'll come to control over here, click plus, create, and then we say clear control. So come here to set some values. ID we'll leave it as such. Transaction ID, you can say unique, give us a unique ID. That's fine. We'll not leave it as blank. Let's reset it. Good. Entry dates, we'll leave it, will be cleared. Transaction dates will always be today, right? So that's fine. Description, we need to clear description. I think we should clear transaction dates. Let's set it to today. Good. And then debit lines, we can't set debit lines to below 1. We can't clear it to be empty either. So we'll always set it to 1. And then credit lines, we'll reset it to 1 as well. Good. So what I'm basically trying to say is, just to give some context, okay, whenever you enter transaction over here, this side has to be cleared, reset. You get it? So we want to reset this so that this becomes transaction date is blank, description is blank, here's 1 and 1. Then when the user finish entering and click save, the whole table is cleared again so the user can reuse it, right? So we have this in place. Now we need to create, you see over here, we have the control, an action that's clearing the control. And in the entry table, we have an action that's clearing the entry table. But the clearing is going to be done once the data in the entry table has been saved. So we need to create a group action that will clear everything and then move the transaction, okay? But because there's an action in the control table, which is different from the actions over here, we need to create another action here that will pull in, or that will call this into effect. So call clear entry table. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well. Forgive me if I'm not. It should be in the entry table. Good. Now, over here, we're going to execute an action on a set of rules, right? We want to execute an action on a set of rules in another table. So over here, we're going to say in the control table, I want you to clear, so ID, I need to give it a list. So I'm going to say select control ID where ID is equal to user email. So whenever this action runs, it's going to clear some, it's going to carry out an action basically in the control table. Which action do you want to carry out? It's a clear control. Okay, so this helps us to call another action in another table. Good. I'm going to hide this. Good. So now that I have these three in the entry table, I can create a group for it. Okay. Group action, partial. You see this? Good. Now, what I'm going to do, you see this? Good. Now, what I'm going to do is basically come here and just say, execute a sequence of action. So the first action we want to do is first to move the transactions to the GL. That's very important. Now, after you've moved it, then you can clear the entry sheet, entry table, then you can clear the GL in this order. It's important this moves first before you clear, right? Obviously. Okay. Now that we've created these actions, now we need something that was going to trigger it. Okay. So we come here to automate, and then we're going to create our first automation. So create my first automation, create a boot. Okay. Event, create an event. And then I'm going to call this new transaction saved. Good. Good. So when a new transaction is saved in the entry table, okay, what I want you to do is to move some transactions. Okay, good. Now this should happen when there is an update, mainly an update, not an add. So mainly an update. When there's an update to the entry table, you move or you carry out some actions. What are the actions? So let's add step, create a new step. Click this. You can name this step as call actions. Good. So run step, run data actions, group of actions. Okay, I think we'll create a group here as well. That's fine. So move transactions to GL, clear entry table, and call clear. This is supposed to be call control table. Call clear control table. That's fine. Let's save it. Good. Got it. So let's click this. Let's click test. Okay, so when I click this, let's see. Success. Good. When I click execute, success. Fantastic. That means this script actually works. Okay. So I'm going to clear this table. Come to my GL. You see some transactions have been moved over here. Let's clear this as well. And let's test our app. We need to hide these actions. So let's come to our app first, and then in the entry table, add has to be hidden, edit has to be hidden. In the control table to add, hide add, edit, hide edit. Let's save this. I need to hide that one too. Clear control, hide this. Okay, so I'm only seeing credits. I don't see the first rule for debits. Why is that the case? Entry table. Okay, you see the email is gone. You see the email is gone. So we need to find out why. So let's come to the entry table. Let's come to entry table. Control. Something is wrong. Good. This sensitive ID. This column holds personal identified information. So because this is tagged as a sensitive ID, in your app, you will not see, you'll replace it by this, right? So we want that behavior to stop. So I'm going to take this off, click done, click save. In this case, we need the IDs to be there. It's very important. Okay, so let's refresh this guy. Fantastic. So now we have this in place. So let's test this. Let's test this. So test transaction. Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to make this 2 debit lines and 1 credit line. And let's see. Let's say you had revenue, okay, from a transaction, but the person didn't pay in full. So part payment. So I'm going to change this to part payment for in-person service something. I don't know. So I'll click on the edit icon. So we received, let's make it bank operation. And then let's say receive 10,000 Ghana cedis. And then trade receivable. So trade or receivables. Patient receivables. Okay, good. Let's say this type of receivable. Let's say we have 5,000 more to receive. So that's 15,000. Now, on credit side, I'm going to say inpatient services, surgery. Credit is how much? It's also the same 15,000. You need to just eyeball to make sure this and this are the same, and then you click save. All right, so there are lots of actions that are running, right? It needs to move this to the GL. Once it's done, it needs to clear here, and then once it's done, it's also going to clear here and reset it. So let's see if those actions will happen. Good. So this has been moved. That's good, but then I don't think this was cleared. This was not cleared, right? Good. But it moved and then it cleared this. Great. So let's come to our GL. Let's see what happened. Over here, this is the entry. Okay, that's fine. And then we come to our GL. Good. So here we have the ID, unique. We have the transaction ID. We have entry dates. That's just now. Good. We have the transaction date, which is this. Then we have payments of past services. We have the accounts. We have debit and credits. We have the type. These are debits. These are credits. Okay. Then we have balance sheet. We have fantastic. Now the only thing we are missing is that the control was not cleared. So let's see why the control was not cleared. I'll come to actions, come to entry, clear or call this. Clear control, okay. All right, so I'm going to try and click on this icon, show in preview, and let me see if I click it, will it work? It works. Okay, so clear control works, but then when I called in that function or action, it didn't work. Let's come to automation. Let's see. All clear entry table. I'm going to rename this. All clear control table. I'm not saying that's a cause, but then yeah, it doesn't hit. Control ID equals to user email. I have a funny feeling that this could be the problem. Okay, because sometimes I'm previewing this app as daniel@gmail.com, but then AppSheet will still go on to pick my actual user email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say control ID equals to this row dot control ID. Okay, this guy. So I'm actually going to pick the control ID from the entry table. I think that would work. I have a funny feeling that will work. Let's see. Let's come here. I need to hide this guy. So come to actions and then hide him. Save. Come here. All right. So we'll test this one more time and we'll see how it will look. Okay. So let's say cash paid in full for outstanding balance. So the transaction we passed by here, we said the person owes 5,000. So I'm just going to do the reversal of that. So I'm going to click plus here. And then I'm just going to, in this case, debit cash. No, I need to select this first. So cash. And say that, okay, front desk, we received our 5,000. That was owed. So receivables. Which one did I select? Yeah, I think it was OPD. I don't remember. Like this. Then I'm going to save this. All right, so let's see. Good. So this cleared, right? It actually worked because he had 1 and 1. That's why you didn't see it. And this is also today's date, but then it worked. So this has cleared. This has worked nicely. If I come to GL, you see over here, You have your 5,000 here, your 5,000 here. It's working fantastically. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to create the option to let new users log in and be able to see that pass section, right? Because if a new user, let me say Daniel dot frames logs in, so Daniel dot frames logs in and he comes here to geo entry. You see, this is empty, and it's reasonably empty because this guy does not have, what's the word? This guy does not have any rules dedicated to him. You see, you need to, as a user, have rules dedicated to you. So we need to create that channel that will let AppSheet create rules for the person when the person first logs in.